Hi everyone, welcome to this series of events in which we are talking about the role of AI engineer. And I'm really excited about this because this is a really something really new, right? Not everyone, nobody knows what it is, but it seems like the industry is converging to some definition. And I'm going to host a series of events. There will be 4 events. I will now talk about them. So let me share my screen. So in these 4 events, we are going to focus. I want to do some data-driven exploration. So I've been working in this industry for quite some time. So I work in machine learning since 2012, and even before that, I was working as a software engineer. So I have some ideas about what AI is, but since this LLM thing and this what we call AI these days, mostly Gen AI and LLM, is relatively new, right? I have some ideas of what AI engineers are, what they do, right? And in this event today, uh, in this webinar, I want to share my opinion about that. But in general, I want to be data-driven, so that's why I collected quite a lot of data. I'm talking to people, and I want to share this information with you in the next couple of weeks. So today we're starting, it's already gone. I think it's somewhere here. Day of AI engineer, right? So I'm going to share my opinion about this role. But then there are 3 upcoming events where we talk about. So I scraped a lot of positions, and I want to analyze what is there, and I want to present the findings and show you the findings, what exactly is there. And I did the same with social media. I found a lot of different things that people talk about during the interview process, and also about home assignments for AI engineering positions. Plus, I know quite a few people who already work in similar positions, so I want to talk. I am talking to them. I'm collecting their experience. Some people interviewed recently for this position, and I want to present all this information to you in these 4 events. But today I want to start with this day of AI engineer. So today I want to talk about my personal definition of what AI engineer should do, or what they do, how they collaborate with others, and the process of AI engineering. And so while this role is relatively new, because Gen AI is new, but machine learning is not new. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the modern AI engineer with a machine learning engineer, how they work. And there are a lot of similarities that also make me very qualified to do this talk, because I have been working with machine learning data science for quite some time. And there are many similarities which I'm going to talk about today. So while I have some materials, and I want to share these materials with you, I also want to make it interactive. That's why there is this link, Slido. I will share the link with you one more time. Please use this link to ask your questions. You can start asking questions right now. I share it in chat. Or you go to Slido, you take I don't know, use your camera to get to get this link. So please, if you have any questions, you can start asking them now, and I'll be keeping an eye on this thing. And I want to focus more on your questions. So in the first part, I want to share, when I talk about typical tasks of AI engineer, I'll just talk, but then after that, I want to pause and look what kind of questions you have. And if you have a lot of questions, I'd rather spend time talking about these questions, because all the materials I prepared today, they are already written, and I will share these materials with you, so then you can just read afterwards. So I want to focus more on interacting with you. And I see that we already have one question, and this is a very interesting question, and we will talk about this after the first part. But while I'm talking, please use this link and ask your questions. Okay, that's enough of the intro. So those who don't know me, my name is Alexei. I teach AI engineering. That's why this topic is very interesting for me. I also run Data Talks Club, which is a community of people who love data. There I teach many other things too, like machine learning engineering, MLOps, data engineering, among other things. So, and also I worked, as I mentioned, I worked in the industry for quite some time. And my last position was a principal data scientist, and I was observing an MLOps platform at a very big organization. And already we started, back then, we already started introducing some Gen AI solutions to our workflow. So right now, that's why I want to share with you my vision on the AI engineering role. And this is just my personal experience. So there will be some discussions that there will be some events, webinars where I analyze existing data, right? But today is not that. So today is just my opinion. You may not agree with this opinion, but it's fine, right? So here we can talk about this, right? So this is all not interesting, but the first thing, and by the way, so these slides, I didn't want to do slides today. So I just wanted to talk to you. But then these slides, they kind of help me to remember the flow that I had in mind, right? So because while talking, I might forget about some things. So these slides, they just here for me to help me with what to talk. But I sometimes might deviate from the slides. Yeah, so anyways, we start with who is the AI engineer. So the role, the main responsibility of the AI engineer is integrating AI into the product. The same with ML engineer. So this is how I would define an ML engineer too. So a machine learning engineer is somebody who integrates machine learning into the product. So what is the product? For this talk today, I prepared a simple example. So this is something I created in Lovable. If you don't know what Lovable is a platform. I'm not associated with them in any way, but I think they're doing some cool stuff. So in one prompt, you can create a website. So this is what I created. Well, it was 2 prompts, but this is an online classifieds website. So here people can post, can sell and buy used things. So for example, you want to sell your iPhone. I don't know if it's real or hallucinate, but anyway, like things you want to sell, you go here and you sell them. So it's a very simple website, right? And so we have this website. This is our product. And we want to integrate AI into this product. And we don't just integrate AI, right? So it's not like we're sitting there and we heard that AI is cool and we are thinking, let's integrate it, right? So it's not like that. Of course, there is some problem that users have. And we did some analysis and we realized that we can help solve this problem with AI, right? And AI engineers already here, they take part. So they communicate with product managers, so product managers typically interact with users or they know what the user problems are. So then product managers and AI engineers, they can think, okay, now we have a problem and AI could be the solution to this problem, right? Could be. We don't know, but we can try. Right, and the problem here on this website is we have this website, but people take some time to fill in. So we have this form. The form is we need to upload the picture, we need to fill the title, the description, the price, the category, possibly fill other fields. So what we want to do is we want to have something like that. So all users need to do is just upload a picture of the item they want to sell, and everything is filled in, right? So that's what we want to do. Well, here, of course, I already implemented this, but imagine in this hypothetical scenario, that this is not implemented yet, right? So we want to implement this. And the product managers talk to the AI engineer, hey, like we have this feature request, and the AI engineer says, yeah, it's very easy to implement, right? Because all you need to do is just send the image to OpenAI, right? So prepare the prompt, send this image to OpenAI, get back some response, and in this response, you have the title, the description, the category, the price, right? It's very easy. right? And then there, okay, if you think that this is something AI can solve, let's solve it. So then AI engineer works on a prototype, and this prototype is, so I have this picture of headphones, right? So you take a picture of something, the flow, this is the flow. You take a picture of something, you upload it, and then this is what we get back from an LLM. So this is comfortable wired headphones. Oh wow, experience crisp sound quality and comfort. I mean, this is too marketing-y. Yeah. But anyways, of course, we as AI engineers, we can go back to the prompt, we can edit this, we can modify to actually make it really good. But anyways, so this is what we have. And now I can just post it, and now I have it, right? So then this contact seller functionality is not implemented yet, but yeah, it's coming soon. So this is what AI engineers would do, right? And you may think, wait a minute, all they need to do is just this. So this is 56 lines of code, right? Okay, well, we can exclude this, but is it all they work? They just send a request to OpenAI and call it a day. So having OpenAI simplifies things, because if I am an ML engineer and I need to deploy a model in production, I don't have this luxury of using a provider that already has a platform, right? So in case of AI engineers, it's kind of easier, right? And most of the time, not always, but I would say in 85, 90% of cases, the work is indeed sending requests to OpenAI or Anthropic or some other LLM provider, right? And then like coming up with the right prompt. Just here we saw that this description maybe is not the best description for an online classifieds platform, right? Maybe it's good if it's new, but like, does it sound like the sound is, do they look like the sound is crisp there? Or I can just say, hey, like these are comfortable headphones. I didn't wear them for long, just get them right now, right? So this would be a more fitting description for online classifieds. Right, so this is something we can do here, and this is something that AI engineer would do either because they test it or because a product manager says, hey, I tested your prototype and it looks like here this thing is off. So how about we redo it, right? And then they would iterate on this. So it's not just doing this, right? But it's also like, okay, how do I design the prompt? How do I keep track of the prompt changes, right? And yeah, things like that. But also, like I wrote this code, but does it work? And then I need to make sure I test it, right? So then I need to have tests. And this test could be like, I get a picture, I send this picture to this endpoint, and I make sure that it's actually doing something. That for this picture, this is the category, this is the price, that the description actually contains what I want. Or, well, in this case, the test is, yeah, here we have AirPods is in the title. Then there is some description, and the description is actually not like trivial, right? So there is some content, right? So we need, as AI engineers, we need to create tests like that, right? Okay, let me get back to slides to see what I missed, right? So we talked about prompts already, right? So we need to iterate on prompts, right? Then also, when we iterate on the prompt, so the product manager tells us, hey, we don't really like it, right? So then you iterate on the prompt. But how can you make sure that the new version of the prompt is actually better? Maybe it works for this specific use case that the product manager showed you, and you can solve it for this specific use case, but how can you make sure that it works, it still works, your updated prompt still works for the other million cases, right? Or for the other whatever cases you have. So for that, you as an AI engineer, you need to collect a good representative data set. You need to label it, and you need to say, okay, like I have an image of a cup, right? Can my system recognizes that this is a cup, or I have an image of a phone from different angles, right? Or I have these AirPods. Actually, this is the picture you saw, right? There are many things, and this is the best thing is what you can do is you can take, like, if you have already this platform, right? So it's very easy to actually, not very easy, but this is one way of getting this data is, okay, I already have data from the platform. So how about I take this picture, I take this description or this title, and I see if the model can reproduce it, right? So I send this to model, and I can see, like, is it does it also land in sports after I use the model to classify it, right? What does it write, right? So things like that. So then you need to think how you create this evaluation data set. And when you have a request like that, and you need to iterate on the prompt, now you can actually make sure that the prompt change you make doesn't break the entire thing, right? So not only it works for this headphones, right? But it also works for AirPods. It also works for this thing. It also works for jeans, right? Because you have this evaluation data set where everything is collected. So this is something AI engineers also need to do, right? Then now we tested it. Everything looks fine. Product manager is happy. So now we want to say, okay, this feature is ready. How about we roll it out? We don't just take it and roll it out for everyone, right? So what we need to do is we need to test it on a small portion of users. We want to see if people are happy, if this doesn't actually break. We want to see how people use it, right? And this is something we do together, like as AI engineers, we do together with other people on the team, like analysts, product managers, backend, front-end engineers, right? But this is really important, like how do we test our system? Does it work? Or we think it works, but do people like it? Maybe we roll it out and this 5% of people who see it, they're all not happy, right? Maybe they want to have the old way also. And then we will think, okay, how do we redesign our flow? Like maybe this was not the best flow, not the best experience. How can we do it better? How can we do it differently, right? So we need to think about things like that. But then as an AI engineer, I own this service. So I am personally responsible for this service. And every time somebody sends a request here, right, I want to make sure that it actually responds. So I want to make sure that there is uptime. So it always responds with this. I want to track latency, how fast it responds. So there are many things I want to track, right? So for that, I want to have a proper dashboard, something like Grafana or whatever, where I see how many requests per second I have, what is my latency, how many errors I have. I also want to have logs. I want to see all the failures. I want to see everything, right? So, and this is just the engineering part. We're not talking about like what does it actually respond with. We only talk about like this service responding at all, right? So this is something important because I own this service as an engineer, right? But we talked about the logs, but also like how does it work? Does it work correctly? We want to collect all the logs. We want to collect all the interactions, and we want to see for this input, this is what the system generated. So then later, if users, did we talk about? No, I think that's the next thing. Yeah, feedback. So if the users, maybe here we have something like thumbs down when, or I don't know, I upload a picture. All right, let's use the same one. And we can see that it generated some things, but the user then changed it to sports, right? And where we can see this, and for us, it's also feedback. And we need to be able to incorporate this feedback into the model. Not only we need to be able to go through this feedback and see, okay, like this action makes sense, the user changed, but this is noisy, right? So this user is, we don't know what really was driving them to do this change, right? So we need to be able to incorporate these things. And for example, here we can also have something like thumbs down. And in this case would be explicit feedback. And when people change this or this, it's implicit feedback, right? And then we can also analyze in all the logs that we collected. what exactly users are changing, and then we can think why they are changing this, right? And then we can incorporate this. But also now we roll this out to 5% of the users. We need to also have humans to look at this. Like, how do we design this? How do we have, how can we enable human annotators to look at the output of this thing and say, okay, yeah, this actually made sense. Because at the end, we want to make sure that we have good quality. And in many ML, machine learning, and AI cases, the best way to achieve that is to have human annotators, right? Or so let's say we are successful. These 5% of users all liked this. We roll it out to all 100% of users. Everyone is happy, everyone is using it. And then OpenAI releases new model, right? And then we are like, okay, we know there are this new model. It's also cheaper, or it's better, or it's faster, or whatever, right? So, but we should be careful. We can't just switch our entire system to the new model, right? Not only we need to A/B test, but also before that, we need to run our evaluations. You need to run our tests. We need to run everything to make sure that this model, this new model, is actually good. And maybe for this model, what happened in the past, especially with older models, when you went from GPT 3.5 to GPT 4, many prompts broke, right? And if you don't have a good evaluation set, you don't even know that things don't work anymore, right? So then it's a job of the AI engineer to make sure that these things don't happen. We have a good evaluation data set, and when we update the model, we do this in certainty that nothing breaks. And I already talked about prompt engineering, prompt versioning. That in some cases it makes sense to have different versions of the prompt and keep track of this evaluation of the prompt, right? The same like we do with traditional machine learning. We change a parameter, and we want to see how this parameter affects our evaluation. So here, our prompt is the parameter, right? So even though this seems like very simple, it's actually more than that. And it's just 10 things, right? So I didn't even talk about, I talked about tests, but they're not here, right? I talked about production monitoring, but also writing tests and having CI/CD. So for example, for this thing, so we have tests. I already showed the tests, but how do we roll this? What kind of environments do we have? Do we have staging and dev environment, staging, dev, production environment, or dev production, whatever? Because when we push something to Git, we want to make sure that all the tests we have, they automatically run. And so then we will need to set up some sort of CI/CD. And after these tests are successful, I don't have an example here, but after these tests are successful, what we can do is we can automatically deploy our changes to dev environment. And then perhaps we have also a set of tests on the dev environment. And once we see that these tests, these big regression tests pass, then we can say, okay, now we can roll this out to production. And then perhaps, I don't know, I need to click a button to do this, or maybe it happens automatically. But somebody needs to set this up, right? And typically, if there is a platform engineer on the team, that's their main responsibility, but they wouldn't actually write these CI/CD tests, right? So they just make sure that the platform gives them the possibility, gives everyone the possibility to do this, but the AI engineer would need to do this, right? So if you look at this, all this that I mentioned, so AI engineer is first of all an engineer, right? Because most of these things are engineering things, right? So like the CI/CD, testing, all these things. But also there are some components of, I don't necessarily want to call it research, but more like you want to have this evaluation framework, right? So this is what traditionally data scientists would do, a data scientist would do, right? So when we talk about traditional machine learning, so data scientists, they focus more on, what do we open the slides? Data scientists focus more on creating the model, translating the requirements from the business point of view to machine learning point of view, right? Then designing this evaluation data set, designing this machine learning training set, training the model, testing the model, evaluating the model, whatnot, right? And then machine learning engineer would focus more on bringing this into production, right? Here in case of AI engineer, they kind of need to do both, but since we already have this thing, right? So there is no really modeling. So most of the time the spend is just tuning the prompt, right? So that's why we don't necessarily need in the AI teams, we don't necessarily need a separate role for a data scientist, right? So the AI engineers can actually take care of that and then focus on all the other things around this, right? So this is how I see the responsibilities of the AI engineers, right? So they have access to these cool tools, LLM providers, but still, in order to integrate AI properly into the product, there is so much work that they need to do. And this example that I gave is a very simple example, right? It's just sending an image to OpenAI API and getting back the response. But there are so many things already just for this simple feature. But imagine there is something more complex like RAG. So to do RAG, we need to have a knowledge base. So a knowledge base is typically some sort of database, could be a search engine, text search engine or vector search engine, whatever, some search engine. And the data needs to be there. So the data needs to go to this search engine. So we need to build a data pipeline. We need to provision all the infrastructure that this search engine actually works, that this process of putting data to the search engine, it actually works, right? So this is a lot of data engineering job. And of course, if you have a data engineer on your team, that this is what they would do either together or maybe the data engineer would focus on that. But it's a part of integrating AI into the product, right? And technically, AI engineers should also be able to do that, right? Or from this, so here, if we need to do RAG, okay, so not with images, but with something else, we want to make sure when we make a call to our knowledge base, it's reliable. So what if database is down, right? So what do we do? Or what if it's slow? What do we do, right? So we need to think about these things. And then if we go from RAG to agent, and like just adding RAG makes this whole thing already, I don't know, 5 times more difficult. But if we also add agents, then we have all this tool calling. It becomes even more complex because we need to also make sure all these tools that agents use, they are working properly. Then our evaluation data set becomes even more difficult because in addition to just, if before we would just send an image and get back some results and then make sure that these results work. But here we will need to make sure that for this scenario, this tool is called. For this scenario, the other tool is called. For this scenario, we have this combination of tools that are called, right? And then the interaction with the API, instead of one request, we would have multiple requests, right? So the interaction becomes even more complicated. So when we go from this simple case to more complex cases, then it becomes even more difficult, like 10 times more difficult. So I think from that, you kind of already understood what are the main skills. So yes, they need to interact with API. They need to, based on that example, I already described what they would need to do in order to actually make sure that these things work. But also, like we talked about agents, we talked about RAG. So this is all needed. Then testing, evaluation, monitoring, observability, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and here, this is already something I mentioned. We don't create models from scratch because we already have one. Sometimes in some cases, we see that using an API is complicated and we might need to replace it maybe with a traditional machine learning model. But I wouldn't necessarily say that this is so. Technically, AI engineer is a full stack role, and we will later see here when we talk about like what I actually found out about when I scraped all these 1,500 positions. But ML is not necessarily something AI engineers automatically should know, right? But of course, since everyone now has AI assistants, this is something we probably should figure out, right? So yeah, the main focus is best engineering practices and integrating AI into the product. Okay, so this is the main part, what I wanted to talk. And I see I already took quite a lot of time to do this. I want to check questions that we have. Okay, what is happening? Okay, where is the login button? Okay, maybe this will work. Cool. How do I transition from a data engineer to AI engineer? So maybe you already heard the answer from what I said, right? Because when we talked about RAG, so first of all, you see that this is primarily an engineering role. So there is not much um, research or science, right? So you make this call. This is kind of all the AI part, and the rest is like tweaking the prompt and doing all the other things. When I talked about RAG, uh, and by the way, like before we talk about RAG, so as a data engineer, you already know how to write tests, right? You already know how to set up CI/CD. You already know about monitoring. So this is not new for you. So maybe the flavor of monitoring is a little different, right? So you were doing data monitoring and not AI monitoring, right? But the tools, they're probably very similar, right? Or you know how to collect logs from your data engineering tasks, right? So that easily translates to what AI engineers need to do. Many things that I talked about, like how do you exactly do this, you might not know, but compared to how to say, like this is the not the so this should be easy to learn, right? You just do this, you do a small project in this, and you're good, right? So then you would need to spend some time to learn about other things I mentioned, but it's not um, like it's doable. It's certainly doable, right? So because you're already an engineer, so what is common between data engineers, backend engineers, machine learning engineers, AI engineers, they are all engineers. So they all have these core skills, the core engineering skills of writing good tests, of knowing CI/CD, following best engineering practices, right? So that's why I think for you as a data engineer, you just need to focus on things that I mentioned right now, which is writing, knowing how to interact with these LLM providers, knowing how to tune the prompts, knowing how to evaluate models. You already know how to do tests, but you just need to spend a bit of time learning how to do tests specifically for AI models, right? So which is way easier because you already have the background. So then I would say like after 4 months, you should be ready to go to transition to AI engineer. And by the way, I forgot to talk about RAG, right? So when we talk about RAG, so RAG is for RAG, we need to have a search engine, and search engine needs data. And in order for data to go to this search engine, we need to write an ingestion pipeline. And this is what you as a data engineer have been doing for all your career, data engineering career. So you'll feel so this is pure data engineering thing, right? So as a data engineer, you can already start in the AI team by contributing to these things, by contributing to data pipelines, and gradually maybe shifting to doing more AI-related work. And I think I already answered this, right? How relevant is data engineering in the AI era? Super relevant, right? Without data engineering, we don't have, and nothing will work, right? So we still need data going inside our search engines. Yeah, so there are so many things that are relevant for AI. How to narrow down what to focus on preparing for interviews in terms of topics and possible some recommended resources. I mean, I would be a bit biased here because I have an AI engineering AI engineering course. And after this talk, you will receive an email from Maven that will promote my course. So of course I can say, hey, take my course. And this would be like a very good recommendation in my personal opinion. So how to narrow down? This is what I already did in the course, right? So now can I check it? So I think this is the most important parts you need to focus on are, first of all, you need to learn how to interact with these APIs. Then you need to understand how to create agents. Like agents are basically LLMs with tools, right? So, okay, you have an LLM, you have some tools. How do you combine them? And tools is everything, like all the actions that LLMs could do. So, okay, like it's very slow. But I hope you can still hear me because my computer froze. So this part, and then how do you do testing? Okay, you also need to know about RAG because this is still the foundation for almost all AI, for many AI applications. So you need to learn about RAG. And then we talked about agents. So then testing is important, right? So how do you test your agents? How do you make sure that these agents behave the way you want, right? And how do you set up monitoring? Also important because you as an engineers, you already know how to set up monitoring, but for AI, it could be a little bit AI specific, right? So you need to spend some time learning that. And then finally, how do you do evaluation? That's, I think this is the most important parts. So at least when I was coming up with, where's our slide? When I was coming up with the curriculum, I thought that this is not entirely, this does not cover 100% the job of the AI engineer, but it covers the 20% that are important, the most important 20%, right? The 20% that account for 80% of the work. So what to focus on preparing for interviews? If you allow me, I would answer this question later, because here we will have AI engineer in the interview process, in a couple of weeks. I'm still collecting data to give the best possible answer for that. So the data is, oh, by the way, so actually already it's next week, I think, this defining engineer role. Already next week, I'll give you some answer to that, but this will be based on the job descriptions, right? And then I'll also take a look at the interview process from specific examples of people who went to interviews recently and their experience, right? So what they were asked and things like this. But already you can do this from just looking at the job descriptions. So you can already see what you need to focus on. But I would say, like before, of course, maybe you don't want to wait. You want to hear the answer now. So I would focus on projects, building projects. And let's say you want to work at a company that works in a specific domain. Let's say e-commerce, like online classifieds, right? And then you can go to their website and see what kind of problems they solve. And based on that, you think, okay, this seems like an interesting problem. How do I solve it? And then you create a small project that where you show that you can solve this problem. And then you do this multiple times, and then you go to the interview, and then during the interview you mention that, and now you can talk about these projects. Why do people who are AI automation specialists call themselves AI engineers? What is the difference? I don't know anyone with this title. That's why I cannot really comment. So could be maybe AI maybe QA engineers, people who automate testing could be, right? Because right now there are many tools that help with that. So maybe for that would be a more proper title QA AI engineer. I don't know. Or AI automation, maybe you're talking about tools like NA10 or Zapier, right? So using these tools with help LLM. So I wouldn't necessarily call them AI engineers in the terms I described today. But since the role is new and there is no strict definition of that, now everyone can call themselves AI engineers and be partially correct, right? Because there is no strict definition of that. So what I presented here is my personal view. And these people who are AI automation specialists might disagree, right? But are they engineers? In my opinion, not really, right? If they do just clicking, there is no engineering rigor. We don't have best engineering practices. We don't have tests. So without that, I wouldn't call myself an engineer, right? But it's just me. So, well, maybe this title looks cooler, sounds cooler. I don't know. But also AI automation, if we talk about things like N10, I think it's pretty cool. What do you see as past experiences of active and impactful AI engineers, like previous jobs as software engineers, data scientists, ML engineers? Yeah, this is something I wanted to talk to you today. I don't have time, but I think people who are data scientists, ML engineers, software engineers, well, people who are data scientists and ML engineers, they are excellent future AI engineers. Because so I worked as a data scientist and I spent a lot of time evaluating models and I spent a lot of time deploying models. And when I deploy models, most of these things I talked about here, they also apply to ML engineers. You just replace a call to OpenAI with a call to a model that you host, and the rest is the same, right? The rest is very, very similar. So AI, data scientists and ML engineers, they already, so for data scientists, they are less focused on engineering, so they would need to work a bit on the engineering side, and the ML engineers, they are less focused on, they are more focused on engineering, so they would need to work on the evaluation side, right? And then for them, it's the easiest probably transition, right? So in my opinion. But then also for any engineer, because you know this engineering best practices, you know the testing, you know the stuff. So for my course, I think software engineers are the best target audience because you already know how to program, you already know how to write tests, you already know many things. So on that background, it's way easier to start with that background and add AI on top of that rather than start with some research background and add engineering on top of that, right? So that's why I think it's my personal experience, but I'm also biased here because I'm also, even though my title was a data scientist, I called myself an engineer all this time, right? Because my focus was always on deploying models, on MLOps and things like that. So I think, but basically you need to be able to build things. So you need to be a builder. So if you know how to build things and you know how to build things reliably, then you can be effective and impactful AI engineer. And I also think generalists are good AI engineers, right? So if you know how to do many things, not necessarily on an expert level, but you just know a little bit of everything, then you'll be a good AI engineer. Is traditional NLP, ML engineering now effectively legacy tech? NLP, probably yes. I mean, there are probably still some cases where it may still make sense, but if you take this model, so this model that I used here for O-mini, this is so cheap, it's insanely cheap. Like, I don't think I paid, like maybe for an image, yes, I paid, but like if you need to structure text, you pay 100th of a cent, right? So you need to really, like in the course, I use GPT for O-mini, and I don't think I managed to spend $1 yet, right? So they are super cheap. So then you think like how much effort you need to put into traditional NLP models versus just send your stuff to GPT-4o mini and call it a day. For me, the answer is obvious, right? There are probably some cases where you still want to have it. Simple cases like spell checker probably, um, or like when you do search, um, you want to do yeah, so when you have a typo, you still want to retrieve your search result, right? So there, because in search you don't want to add extra latency. So you want your search to be very fast. So there it still makes sense. Right? Other than that, I don't know. What do you think about the future of software engineering, data science, and even AI engineering roles as AI is getting smarter and capable each day? I saw a post on Twitter today. Somebody said, why does Anthropic have so many open software engineering positions if Claude is writing everything? And then the creator of Claude Code answered that somebody still needs to check the output of Claude Code. Somebody still needs to interact with Claude Code. Somebody still needs to give proper instructions. Somebody still needs to check the results, the output of this. Because just today, I was working with Claude Code, and I asked it to add a new feature, to fix a bug, right? So it fixes a bug, and then I say, hey, run tests now. It runs tests and reports that 2 tests are broken. They do not run. And it says that, oh, this is a pre-existing thing. It's not, basically it says it's not my fault. I don't want to deal with this. I say, but it is, because this is directly related to what we just changed. And then it acknowledges and say, oh, I'm sorry, yes, you're right. And then it proceeds to fixing this test. And then I see how it tests. It completely deletes the test and creates a new one. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what did you just do? Like, why did you delete this test? And it came up with some excuse. But then I say, hey, like, okay, this new test is good, but how about you add the old test and make sure it passes? And then it reluctantly did at the end, right? I mean, I don't know reluctantly if I can do this, but like somehow they're sometimes sneaky and lazy, and like still somebody needs to keep an eye on them. And this was Opus 4.6, like the best coding model we have, right? It tried to cover up, like it didn't want to fix my test. Seriously. So I think it's like, yeah, I don't know, it's like a very um, enthusiastic intern, right? So they can work really well, but sometimes they're sloppy and we need to look after them. So I don't think engineering in like this engineering is in danger, because we still need to watch after AI. We still need to make sure that we enforce best engineering practices, because if you don't do this, then yeah, AI will create something that doesn't work and is dangerous, and yeah. So basically, I think we're safe. With data science, maybe not so sure, because this simple thing, kind of replaces a data scientist to some extent, right? Uh, I mean, for simple things. I'm not saying that, but from what I hear, people um, who work as data scientists, just data scientists, they don't really do engineering. Now it's not so easy for them to, if they are laid off, it's not so easy for them to find a job. Okay, I see that we have a lot of questions. I unfortunately need to go. So what I will do is here for the slides, where I have the slides. So there is still a lot of materials I wanted to share with you. So what I will do is I will share these materials in writing with you. And these questions are interesting. So what I want to do is I want to answer these questions separately offline, and I will send you the answers. Okay. So I will do this this week, right? And you will get these answers in writing. Yeah, and also let me share this. So this is my Substack. So this is where I'm actually going to share all these things. Let me find, okay, chat. I see some questions here in chat. So Max, I see that you asked a question. Can you please put this question to Slido? So, because the questions will disappear now because we are going to finish the meeting. But I still want to make sure I answer all your questions. So I'll answer them offline. But please put it in Slido. So I will answer the question. I just shared the link to Substack. So this is where I'm going to share all the materials I was talking about. So I will put more articles here. One of the articles will be based on what we had today, and then there will be more and more articles. So you can subscribe now, but also I'll make sure that I send the materials to you sometime during the week. And yeah, that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed it. I did not cover everything I wanted. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to answer your questions, but I hope that it was still useful. And the most important part that I wanted to talk about, I actually talked about, right? So that this, the role, the day of AI engineer, right? How exactly they, what kind of work they do. Okay, so the next event is going to be this one, defining the AI engineering role. I'm going to share the link with you. And there, what I'll do is I scraped a lot of data. I look up AI engineer and whatever was there in the result, I scraped. And I analyze this data. So there are some duplicates. After dropping duplicates, it was a lot less than this number. So this number just looks nice, but it was like 800. Still, like it's a very good data set, very large data set. And I haven't finished analyzing it, but there are already quite some many interesting things. I can share slides. Yes, I will share slides. Not right now, because I need to go right now. But over this week, I'll share all the materials with you. Also the draft that I'm preparing for Substack. So you can, yes, the recording will be available. I'll also share the draft with you that I prepare for Substack. So you can see everything I wanted to talk about today. All right, so I didn't manage to talk about this, but you'll see the draft. And with that, I will stop right now. Let me stop sharing. So thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone. Was very fun. I'm a bit tired of talking for 1 hour. So I'll go now out, enjoy the evening, and I wish everyone a great day. And yeah, see you on the next event, which is, I think, in 1 week. So see you there. Goodbye.